Alabama's Brandon Miller has been the most productive freshman in college basketball so far this season. And as a 6'9", 6'10 wing who has been lights out from deep and shown an ability to affect the game on both ends of the floor, he's garnered draft buzz as high as the 3rd spot in this class from some. He's currently averaging over 19 points and 9 rebounds a night, which is obviously outstanding. And though every game didn't go Bama's way and he has some rough patches in there, he showed he could still hang and have good moments against some of the stiffer defenses in the country in the Phil Knight Invitational. The thing that's made him such a big time threat to start the year is his 3-point shooting. He shot nearly 50% on the year on more than 7 attempts a game, and though it's a small sample size with some inferior competition in there, the ease in which he shot the ball from the distance he has and on the move has been super impressive, and when you take out the 0 for 6 debut, it gets even crazier for his percentages. He's done it off of dribble handoffs, little pin downs, regular spot up looks, and in transition, and he seemingly answered a lot of the questions I had coming into the year in terms of his ability from deep. And though this level of shooting probably won't hold, he's making it hard to doubt him being a 40s guy, and it's made him a serious weapon. His release point is a bit lower than some other guys his height. I think it's just a product of strength or lack thereof, but it already looks a little better from his high school tape, and he's really extended his range. It's a repeatable motion, fluid and consistent. His footwork has really impressed me, especially on the handoffs and off the dribble looks, and I'm pretty sold on his mechanics as a whole going forward, at least from 3.
Works against Zelly Snack.
The way they have attacked, especially defensively, Alabama.
I've liked what he's done on the glass, both defensively and offensively on putbacks. He's had quite a few of those opportunities that you start to notice it. He's had over 7 rebounds in every single game, which for a guy like him is all you need to see to know what he's capable of there, especially for someone who's not consistently guarding bigs or playing on the inside. Now, some of this offensive stuff we'll talk about later in terms of stuff that he can still improve, but I've been intrigued by what he's done in transition, grabbing and going, and also some of the push crosses he's used and other sparing handle flashes in there as well. He's a ways away, but he's also had flashes in the pick and roll that I like, even as he's not been the most efficient or refined there as a scorer. Some of the passing reads have been excellent in a way that you wouldn't really expect if you hadn't seen some of him in the past. And then he's also had some smooth takes to the bucket off screens or second side, which I think is a spot that he could seriously shine in the future. Now, all of this hasn't been in the biggest abundance or volume, but I felt like we needed to kind of lay the groundwork and talk about what he can do before we get into some of what he's yet to show on this end.
Tied. Miller. Jump pass outside, sets up a 3. Got it.
Fresh faces, hungry as can be, full of hope.
Bediako. Burnett, wide open.
Even with the high level shooting upside and a few other ways he's been effective offensively, he's shown some real potential on the defensive end that you have to like. He's got great size and length, which is always necessary and welcomed, and I think he's been pretty impressive off the ball or in help situations, coming up with some big time moments, denying the ball and chasing people, or even having some blocks. You throw in some of his versatility, guarding a few different types of players in the chase downs, and it's pretty easy to see the upside that he has on this end of the floor. Now, I think he has some things to work on in terms of screen navigation. His lateral foot speed isn't amazing, and though he's matched up with a lot of guards throughout this season, I can't confidently say that's something I'd want to see a lot of at the next level, but there's a ton of season left for him to change my mind in that regard. And even saying that, it's not like you can point out a ton of times where he's been taken advantage of consistently in that way.
State Oaks basketball.
Caleb Love leans in.
Now, going forward with B. Miller, there are a few key things that are going to decide his stock in a huge way. The first is his ability to create space, separation, and get downhill in the half court. And when we're talking about top 3 picks in the draft, you do want there to be as much ability or upside as a creator as possible, and with him that's a question mark. He doesn't have the quickest first step, his handle definitely needs work even with some of the flashes. I do think he significantly clears Jabari Smith in that regard though, someone who he's been randomly often compared to early in the year, but this is a real area he'll need to improve, as we've seen some of his struggles here pop up against everyone from UNC and UConn to South Alabama. I think that there's enough there to make him a really effective option if you get a bit more creative like we were talking about earlier, but this is a huge key. In addition to that, his finishing in traffic and explosion in traffic has left a lot to be desired, especially at 6'9", 6'10". He's currently shooting below 50% at the rim, which is self-explanatory, and ranks in the 20th to 30th percentile of all of college basketball. And I think this might be even more important than the separation, because there are ways we've seen players in recent lottos have a lot of success with similar profiles, but you can't really manufacture the finishing. It's hard not to wonder what everything looks like if the 2-point percentage is still as low as it's been, and if he comes back to earth some from 3. You get matched up with a guy like Leaky Black, who is always going to make it tough, but you also miss 3 or 4 gimmies in the paint, you end up with a pretty rough performance. I'm still a huge fan of his game and overall upside, but those 2 areas are why I'm a bit more hesitant in crowning him the 3rd guy or as a top 5 lock right now. I wanted to briefly mention this, but a big talking point with him has been his age so far. He's a year older than most freshmen, but we've been through this before. I think it's only more relevant when you start talking about the gap that exists between him and the Cam Whitmores, the Gigi Jacksons, and even the Derek Whiteheads. If you want to think of him as a sophomore, I don't really think that changes the evaluation anyways, and I'd hope his actual game gets cited more than his date of birth. Now, getting into some of the big matchups over the rest of the season, they play Houston and Jarris Walker in about a week. That's going to tell us a lot. If he can hit on some of those areas and still get his game off against them, that'll be all I really need to see, though it's going to be tough. Gonzaga should be a fun one as well. And then the SEC has plenty of guys you want to see him go up against, whether it's Jordan Walsh and Trevin Brazile in Arkansas, the front line in Auburn, Gigi Jackson, Julian Phillips, Alex Fudge. There's a lot of perfect matchups that'll give us insight into his projection. And who doesn't love great NBA level competition in these beautiful environments? I see Brandon Miller as more of a top 10 guy right now, and depending on what he shows in terms of his creation, finishing at the bucket, and making plays for others, he could potentially rise into that upper echelon of the class for me. His combination of size, shooting, and defensive upside is a healthy one that all 30 teams would take tomorrow if they could, and that bodes really well for his future in the end.
How difficult is he to guard in practice, and just kind of what do you see out of his game?
I ain't gonna get into too many details. He a bucket getter. That's that.
Yeah, he's definitely a bucket getter. He's talented, man. I haven't seen a guy like that in a long time. Like he's very different. I mean, he's gonna be very impactful for us. I mean, he's a leader. He's a freshman. I mean, he got a bright future for sure.
He's one of a kind.
If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new around here, and comment down below what you think of Brandon Miller's game. Is he your number 3 guy, or do you have some similar reservations about him 7 games into the year? Let me know. I'm Keandre, this is Hoopin' a Leg. Till next time, I'm out.
I believe God can see us before he send us up. And I don't know about you, but he made men of us. Yeah, this is all on me. From the